Welcome to the 2019 Fall Sports Parent Activities Meeting. I appreciate all of you coming. This is a great turnout. I think the information has been received well. Before we get started, I want to make sure and just get your patience and cooperation with us a little bit. We have had some technical difficulties. We'll work through those today. Also, as you know, we've had several different changes that are occurring in the building. You'll notice that we've had several rooms under construction, and we just appreciate your cooperation working through those. We do have our breakout sessions that'll go a little bit later. They're going to be down the very first hall mostly, so we try to minimize as much as we can in regard to use of the building. And in an effort, I'll try to go through this as quick as we possibly can. To that benefit, we do not have sound. I do have 2 videos that have sound, so we're going to go through those really quick. Some of these, this will all be posted online. I'll put a YouTube. We're videoing this as we speak. I'll put it on YouTube. For those that didn't show up, they'll end up having to watch the video and take the quiz afterwards. So fortunately, you are here. That's a good thing. We'll make sure that you sign in. Each of your breakout sessions do have a computer for a sign-in. It is sport specific, so when you go to put in your information, make sure that you're with your sport. So if you happen to look at the bottom section and you're in football and it says tennis, click on that football tab to make sure that you've got the right spot to put your contact information in. Otherwise, it'll mess things up. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. First thing, I want to make sure and do some introductions. We do have some changes. We've had some additions within our district. It's very nice and unique that our building now has 5 administrators. Obviously, our building principal, Mrs. Fletcher. I want to make sure and thank her. Our assistants, Mr. Hollingshead, Mrs. Larios, Mr. Supez, and then myself as the activities director. And then down here, what I'd like to do is make sure that we just kind of introduce all of our fall activities and sports. If I could please have that coach just stand up. We'll hold our applause until the very end, but let's go ahead and we can kind of get a face and a name with the person that's here. So first, if I could have Mr. Redmond stand up.
Hey, I'm up here.
Okay. Mrs. Duchamp. Right there. Mr. Ducray. Right there. Mrs. Doak. Mr. Lenhart. Mr. Defa. Mr. Legursky. In the house anywhere?
Yeah, very bad.
Very bad. That's Mr. Legursky. Mr. Anderson. And Mrs. Fire. Okay, if I can please have a round of applause for those people. Time commitment and what they do outside of just their normal contract hours is absolutely incredible. We need to make sure that we thank them. Also, I want to make sure and thank Mrs. McGovern, our superintendent, as well as Mrs. Bolton, our HR director, to allow me to have the opportunity to go ahead and present the vision and mission that all of our coaches can abide by and can fall into one track. Next, we need to make sure that we also recognize a couple other people. My right hand, or the person that does the work, Mrs. Duchamp. She's an activities secretary, does a wonderful job. Mrs. Wiseman, many of you know her as our athletic trainer. I think she does a fantastic job. We oftentimes talk about, can we identify a student who is injured or has hurt, and what we can do to try to accommodate that. So, thank her. Our teachers, the time that they put in, they had a little bit of research and they figure out the hours that they put in, and the time is incredible. So, we got to thank them. Our transportation staff, every year, it seems like there's more and more requests, and it's always interesting when it comes to weather and what they have to deal with, so we want to thank our transportation staff. Our maintenance staff, Mrs. Betelhume, as you know, you can see with our building alone, there has been a lot of work that's needed to be done. And not only is this just contracted, but it's also set up through a lot of our members in our district. And so I have to thank them for what they've been able to do and really applaud them for that. Parents, it takes an army to raise a child. And every year I learn more and more about that. And I really have to commend you for the commitment, the time, the dedication, your desires, endless hours that you put in. So I thank you for that. Our coaches, we've already kind of talked about that, but assistant coaches as well, they do an incredible job. They are oftentimes asked for responsibilities at a moment's notice, and there's always that disclaimer, as other duties are assigned, and that definitely applies with our coaches. Finally, I want to make sure and thank our wives. and our husbands. I've had the opportunity of experiencing it a little bit through my coaching, but the time that they are taken away from their significant other is incredible. So whenever you get a chance, please thank them. They really are connecting piece to this entire process. So what's new for 2019? In the past, I didn't even have a slide like this, but there's been some changes, and so we've had to have some additions. And you'll notice we'll go through each of these. I'll very briefly show you the block schedule, attendance at practices. This is definitely a change. Mitigation penalties for participation. There's been some adjustments with that. Practice rule limitation. We processed this a little bit last year, but it's definitely in the handbook now. Bag checks on overnight trips. Eligibility process for online homeschool and post-secondary levels. There's been a change with that a little bit that we want to make sure we clarify. And then student registration. We'll talk a little bit about this, but I want to let you know this is on Unified Classroom. Right now, Power School, we're having some issues with Power School. Our technical director has communicated with them multiple times. They still do not have it set up, but there is some information on how to do this. I'll mention it a little bit later, but that's important to know as well. Just a little bit about our philosophy, our mission. Basically, we want to be as active and as involved as we can and as much as we can. We want our student athletes to be involved in as many activities as possible. It's a great extension of their learning. They get to learn from multiple different arenas, multiple different coaches, and we want that commitment. We want them to be actively participating in that. And this is part of our mission. This is what our coaches agreed that we want to make sure that we uphold to them. Within that, we enrich our students' character education and our students, again, multiple different characteristic developments that they learn from those arenas. What does it teach? What's the why? Helps us focus on discipline, hard work, teamwork, responsibility, adversity. I like this one right here especially, self-advocacy. There are going to be situations in your life, students, that you're going to have to go up and make a hard call or have a hard conversation or at least have the conversation. And this is a great outlet to be able to do that. Because coaches care. All you've got to do is just be able to go ahead and speak and communicate, and we work through those. And then physical activity, the mental and physical components are an extension of the education setting. It's fantastic. Just a little bit about the multiple statistic proof. Again, just talks about how many different people are involved in multiple sports. I looked at other sports. There was nothing that was identifiable, plus the 2019 draft information is not up yet, but 91% of those draft athletes in the NFL were multi-sport athletes. I'm not saying football is the end-all be-all, but that gives you a lot of interesting information. To continue with that, what's our biggest reason? We want our student athletes to stay healthy. And the research shows that being a sports specialized helps increase the potential for injury. This research article here, it's in 2015, talked about how it increased sustained lower body injuries. We want them to be actively involved in multiple sports. It helps them to become more well-rounded, not only mentally, but physically. A big component of that is strength training. We've kind of put a big emphasis on that in the last few years. This year in particularly, we've really put a focus on it. And the thing that I really want you to understand is we have a lot of information that talks about it's okay to train at a younger age. Oftentimes hear student athletes talk about, I'm not fully developed yet. I don't want it to stop my growth. Or I don't want it to mess with my basketball shot. This is common information that we have heard for years and years and years, and it's just not true. The foundation towards our success is our strength. Okay? I say this a lot. I think it's the rule. What's the biggest secret everybody knows about? The weight room. So with that, we've kind of just set up a little bit of a video. Mr. Merle's been working with the volume. Hopefully we got something. Just to kind of show you a little bit about what we've done this summer. This is kind of just a little bit of a snapshot. So just kind of seeing that video a little bit, and that's just a small snapshot of some of the activities. There's a lot of other sports that are being represented there. You'll notice that said 40 plus female athletes, 6 different sports represented. There's also other programs that are also used in the weight room, and that's really the foundation of our success towards our athletics. And I just think that that's a big piece of it. You'll notice in some of the video that are slow motion, are we getting our depth? Are we doing things right? Are we doing the exercises that we need to do? The video definitely shows those kind of things. So kudos for those that did the summer strength and conditioning program, coaches that were involved. It's the foundation for our success, and we're starting that. So with that, what's the roles? What is our roles overall involved? Our coaches, they're kind of the role models to support each other's respective sport. There's been clear communication that we want them to be as competitive as they can during their season, but when their season's over with, what are they doing to get involved in other sports? Are we having that conversation? Are we having that communication? Is it happening? For our parents, understand chain of command and let our athletes be involved. Let them be able to grow within themselves and be an advocate for that and support for it. For the administration, just to be able to support as much as we possibly can with management, itineraries, bus requests, and any kind of needs that we may see that's going to be beneficial for our students and our coaches. So in summary, again, it's just to teach students the multiple values that are associated with extracurricular activities. I think it's fantastic to note that we've had an increase in our cheerleading numbers. Our band has absolutely grown. We've got speech and debate that's had some great success in the past. There's been some wonderful things that are really going on, and that's all a part of that multi-sport activity philosophy. Let's let our students develop character, our coaches the coach, and let's let our parents be community involvements and enjoy the experience. With that, athletic programs have a risk. There is an adverse effect to that. There's something that's associated with it. And our first priority is to make sure that our student athletes are safe. That's going to be number one. So if we ever identify that there's going to be a concern, we're going to address that as much as we possibly can and as soon as we can. This right here, please talk with your athlete about reporting any injury or concern to Mrs. Wiseman. This is absolutely essential. Please, if you've got any concerns, any bumps, bruises, or anything that happens, your son comes to you, your daughter comes to you, man, I'm just not feeling very good. I'm feeling a little dizzy, a little queasy. Make sure that we get that communication with our trainer. Oftentimes I'm concerned the most is when they're on their away trips and our coach isn't there, our athletic trainer isn't there, We need to make sure that we get that communication. Okay? And then, as she's taking care of that and injury occurs, please allow her to go ahead and take care of that situation. She will be in very clear communication with you to go ahead and tell you what next steps are to help with that, whether they need to go see a professional, medical professional, or maybe there's some things that they can do at home. Okay? Concussion, always a very, very big issue that we always talk about, and we take this with the utmost seriousness. It is a state statute. It's set up as a safety act. We have listed any athlete that is representing or identifying any kind of concussion type needs, we're going to pull them right away. And we're going to err on the caution. Okay? We're not going to say, I think you're fine. Go ahead and go back out there. Let's try with it. We're going to pull them out. We'll get them reviewed by our trainer. She'll make sure and go ahead and make the next steps to see what we need to do. Once when those symptoms are gone and we've received a release from the doctor, 9 times out of 10, what's going to end up happening is you're going to have to go see a medical healthcare professional along with our trainer. Please don't take our trainer out of that loop. Once when all of that's done and the doctor is given that release, only at that time do we have a return to play protocol. It's a 6-day return to play protocol. And our trainer sets that up very strategically based on their sport and where their concussion level is to get them to go ahead and come back at 100%. So parents, oftentimes you may be misinformed. Here's the medical doctor's release. My son's good. He can play tomorrow, right? No, that is not the case. We actually return to play protocol them, and it's typically 6 days. So we want to make sure that we're taking everything as serious as possible and making sure that they're safe. With that, make sure you get your physicals. I know some of you have already started with that, and we've really done a good job of getting a hold of multiple resources to go ahead and offer those physicals. There are still dates at the Memorial Hospital. They're going to do another one on the 8th of August from 2 to 4. All 3 of these areas have physicals for $25. At the Hunter Family Clinic, you can just go ahead and call up for an appointment, and that's until the 31st of August again. And then Castle Rock over Green River, they also have their times, and they're set up on Tuesdays for their appointments. You've got to have a physical before you can play. Or practice, for that matter. Next thing is our sportswear online. All of our athletic programs, as well as those that require to get a physical, so band is included in this, you have to do your paperwork. And in that paperwork, it requires signing off on the activity or athletic handbook. There's the sports physical. This is the only sheet that you will physically hand in to our trainer. You have to go get your physical. That form is with those doctors. We also have copies. We can get those to you. You go ahead and get your physical. Then what you'll do is you'll get on www.swole123.net. You can go ahead and you can activate all of this information, emergency information, concussion acknowledgement, assumption of risk, health information. If you already have a count, okay, you were a freshman last year, you went through it, all you have to do is renew that, look through the new stuff because our activity handbook is new. You'll have to sign off of that, make sure the information here is all taken care of, sign off of that, hand in your physical, then you're good. If you are a freshman and you have not done this, then you're going to have to set up an account. And what we have in the library after this general session and your breakout sessions, you can go into the library and you can start to work on that. We've got 4 people that are set up with accessing accounts so they can help you expedite that process and kind of get you through that. Just a couple notes on here. Again, the only form that needs to be sent in is a physical to Miss Wiseman. That physical has to be dated after May 1st. You wouldn't think that's an issue, but we have had some that were actually done in early April. Once when your paperwork's done, then what you'll do is you'll receive an orange card. That orange card is your ticket to go ahead and practice and be set up to go ahead and start with your program. Until that orange card is there, you cannot practice, you cannot do anything until that's all taken care of. That assures us that we've got the proper paperwork. Okay? It is only good for one season, so if you go from, let's say for instance, cross country to indoor track, you're going to have to make sure that you get another. Okay? Again, Mrs. Wiseman will be available tonight after the meeting in the library, and then she's also available this week 8-5 through 8-9 in the athletic training, 8 to 11 in the morning. So if you've already got your physical, you want to go ahead and get your orange card taken care of, go down to the training room, down at the football level, the doors will be open there, you just go in, see Mrs. Wiseman, and she can get you set up with your orange card. That's again, making sure you have all of this stuff done and your sports physical. Okay? Key points from the activities handbook. These are some changes, so please pay attention and listen to all of these. Attendance on game days, or practice days, excuse me. Because of our block schedule and the way it's set up, must be in attendance in all classes in order to practice. Miss a class, you can't practice. Okay? I want to make sure that that's very, very clear. You have to be in all of your classes in order to practice. There are extenuating circumstances, obviously faculty excused, and extenuating circumstances that are approved by me, and please, 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 give me prior notice. It's very, very hard for me to go ahead and try to excuse you for practice when you know that you've had a dentist appointment for 2 weeks, and then after the fact you come with me with the doctor's appointment. No. Please get that stuff taken care of beforehand. Outside of that, we understand the importance of being in the classroom, so you've got to be in all of your classes. If you're not, we will send a report at the end of the day. If it shows unverified, excused, I guess you get to sit and watch. So please make sure that you understand that is a change. Attendance on game days. Students have to be in all their classes on the day of a competition. Very simple, all of them. If leaving before classes start, then the student athlete must be in all the classes the day before departure. So if you leave at 7 o'clock on Friday for competition in Cody, you need it to be in all of your classes that Thursday. Make sure that you understand that you have to be in all those. If there are any absences, they can only be approved by me, like a doctor's appointment or something, and again, prior notice. And last year it worked out very well. Had some great communication by most of the students. They would come to me, Mr. Jasmine, I'm going to be gone Thursday. I've got a doctor's appointment. We would explain the protocol. Make sure you check out. Go to your doctor's appointment. Come back immediately following with your note. Make sure you check in. Give me the note. Then you're good to go. Okay, we're not going to ask of you to change your appointments. We just want to make sure that you follow through the process very clearly. Again, pre-approval. And please check out and check back in. I hate to be the stickler, but we've had students that didn't check out. We don't know where they're at. That's a school safety concern. Then they come back with their doctor's note. I'm sorry, I'm not going to let you travel. Okay? So make sure you follow through the process. And then again, our coaches may have additional training rules that are set up. Again, additional key points, bag checks. On all overnight trips, bags will be checked. Okay? So just go through those, make sure that they don't have any concerns there. This is a policy, JFG, and it's to maximize our students' and coaches' safety. If you haven't seen some of the issues or concerns that have come about, this is one of those to help us take care of that. Practice limitation. This is just coming about. We're being very, very proactive about it. You've seen it happen in football. It's starting to happen with other sports. 3 hours. No practice lasts longer than 3 hours. Okay? It states here, the purpose of this is to minimize student fatigue, injury, burnout, and maximize our shared facility use. If there are some concerns that come up from the coaches, they'll make sure and give me prior notice, and we'll communicate that beforehand. Off-campus course eligibility. In the past, when we had homeschooled students, online classes, post-secondary classes at the college, we really were kind of a little bit open on taking care of eligibility. Now that's going to be a very strong rule that's put in place. You're going to have to follow up on that. The expectation is that a semester eligibility as well as weekly eligibility, I'm going to need documentation. So for an example, seniors, you have a college class. Maybe you have 2 of them. You know eligibility is pulled every Monday at the beginning of the week. Just get in the habit of every Monday just bringing me a copy of your college grades. Bring them to me. I can look at them and I can verify with the other classes that you have here. Okay, you're good to go. Or I might say, guess what? That's only 5. You're eligible in this class. You've got until the next day at noon to get it taken care of. Homeschooled students, we're going to need verification of that as well as our online classes. Online classes, again, that's very easy. Make sure that we have that information. Okay? But eligibility is being checked by those people. Talked about it a little bit earlier. Student registration, unified classroom on InfoSnap. Again, we're working with PowerSchool. There's a little bit of an issue that's going on right now. They don't have it set up when you actually go into unified classroom on the school district website. You can go in there, click on it, says student registration. You click on that. Then there's a main portal. Then there's also an InfoSnap. Right now, there's a syntax error with that. Neither one of them are working. But please note right here, I'm just going to read this. All contact information has to be updated prior to the start of school on the 19th of August. We will communicate with you on that. If PowerSchool hasn't worked with it, we'll work with you as much as we can, but that's the expectation. We want to have that information before the start of school. It's very, very important. This information is on the district website, and it says all athletes and activities athletes will not be able to travel until this information is put in. So if you've got some competitions that have come up, please, we've got to have this information. There's nothing more concerning for me to not have the proper information, and we need to get a hold of you for emergency purposes. So we have to have that. And again, you'll get it off of the district website. So please, check our district website. More information will come out, and you can go ahead and go through and get that information taken care of. Points of emphasis from the Wyoming High School Activities Association. You're only allowed 8 semesters of competition, okay? I hear this a lot from some students. I didn't play football my freshman year, and I'm not going to graduate my senior year. I'm going to be a super senior, so does that mean I get to play football my super senior year? No. The second you become a freshman, you get 8 semesters. That's it. So no change in that. Students must be amateur athletes. If you're competing at any kind of competitive level, you cannot participate. Cannot compete in an independent team. I want to make sure that I give clarity to this. Okay, most importantly, it cannot be of the same sport. And it seems to always be the case with basketball and our spring sport and soccer. If you are part of a high school activity, and let's say it's soccer, and then you are part of a club soccer, you've just violated your eligibility. And you cannot participate for Roxbury's High School. You'd have to quit one or the other. That's an independent team rule. Okay? Recruitment is not allowed. This applies obviously more for neighboring schools like Casper, where they have neighboring schools. However, if you have transferred from one school to here and you've competed, you need to make sure you come and talk to me. okay? And then no participation with the college or university team. Requirements for participation, much like what was detailed on that SWOL information, we gotta have your medical insurance. You have to have medical insurance. If not, Mrs. Duchamp's got some forms that they can go ahead and take care of through the Wyoming High School Activity Association. We can get you set up with there. Any homeschooled student must see me. Please come and see me. We need to verify and make sure that we get a combination school agreement set up, and our coaches will make sure and drill that into you the very first day. If there's anybody that's a homeschooled student, please come and see me at the end of today, or make sure you come to our office. Cannot be 20 before August 1st, and then we'll talk more about this with our eligibility. Must pass 3 credits currently and from the previous semester. So that's currently and previous semester. School code of conduct, obviously, if you violate any kind of conduct, there can be consequences that are set up with this. This is largely based on student behavior, unbecoming of a program, probation, suspension, dismissal from a team. Other actions can occur from that. Specifically, it talks about alcohol, tobacco, and drugs. And I want to make sure that we understand that this is 24/7, 365. So you may not be participating in an activity or an athletic program at that time. It may be last week at the fair. Doesn't matter. Once when you have signed the activity handbook, you abide by those rules, 365, 24/7. So, first violation, if you violate any of these 3, 60-day activity suspension. You can practice, but you cannot attend performances, contests, or special events. Second violation, it goes to a full calendar year. You cannot practice or attend team functions. And then third violation, you're just done with activities, athletics altogether. It's very bold and very big here. Be aware that electronic media constitutes evidence of alcohol, tobacco, and drug abuse or possession or use. I've had to do it, and I hate saying this, but I need to make sure that it's very, very clear. The social media, this is not used as a phone anymore. This is a video device. We all know that. And it's used a lot for that same reason. So if you happen to be at a party, somebody's taking a video of you, and in the background there happens to be a beer can, guess what? You have violated this policy. Even if it's a situation, well, I was at my parents', and my parents said it was a party that we could be a part of. Remember, athletics and activities are privileged. They're not a right. And so by that, we want to uphold to a higher standard. So yes, you'll be violating that rule if you have that. So please, just don't put yourself in that environment. It's that simple. We do have a mitigation. This has changed just a little bit. We wanted to make sure that this was more equitable for a lot of our activities and to make it more equitable for our student athletes. So if a student agrees to participate and successfully completes a student assistance program, their first violation goes from 10 activity day suspension to a maximum of 20% of the total contest. So for instance, let me use an example. Currently right now, football has 9 games. Basketball has 18. The rule used to say it was 10 activity days or next 2 performances. Well, for football, that'd be 2 weeks. For basketball, that could technically be 1 day. And so by doing 20%, that makes it a little more equitable. So for instance, now, if you happen to be a football player and you end up getting suspended, be out for 2 performances, which could very well be 2 weeks. For basketball, 4. That's 20% of your schedule. So make sure that you understand that. Then here, it's just a 60-day activity violation suspension. And then third violation, it's 1 calendar year, much like what was detailed in the previous slide. Understand that there are requirements that are set up for this. So there is an expectation and are things that you will do. And the student assistance program, it's meant to be an educational process for them to learn with it. And with the advent of concerns regarding tobacco and vaping, we've got to make sure that we're doing something to help with that. We understand and we know it's not just a school issue, it's a nationwide issue. We're going to do what we can to help educate that. Social media. It's very important that we talk a little bit about social media and the advent for it. I think this is a great saying. We understand that oftentimes you may be heated circumstance, I'll say it, I wasn't gonna, but boy, I sure do like Sweetwater Rants and Raves. That's a great one. There's some interesting information on that. If those people would just stop and think a little bit, it'd help. But remember, life is 10% of what happens to you. 90% is how you react to it. Please, be careful what you post, okay? And the reason why I say that is in January 9, 2015, this was in the Athletic Administration article. It talks about a student who was being highly recruited. Very, very sought after. He was actually a junior. They were looking at him in a basketball scholarship. The coaches went ahead and got on 2 sites. One was all the same. Twitter for him, Twitter for his parents. After they looked at that, they went to that student and they said, you know, you're just not the kind of material we think is going to be productive for our program. And it's not what we are looking at. As you read through this, you found out a part of that, I ain't saying this, but a part of it was also parents' tweets about some comments that were made about the coach. This is ridiculous, it's stupid. He only got 28 points and he only played 40 minutes. He should have played the entire game. I don't know if as a coach I would want that type of family dynamic in the program, especially at the next level. So please, again, I can't tell you enough. Pause. Take a minute. Understand the circumstances. And if it's that much of an issue, go ahead and make sure that you try to set up a meeting instead of putting it on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of those things. Okay, block schedule. I'm going to go through this very, very quickly. You're going to receive quite a bit of information, but what we've got is Monday, Wednesday are going to be your odd days. Tuesday and Thursday are even days. Friday is every single class. And so you'll notice here what it's set up for. This is for even and odd, first and second. There's your time. We have a little bit of a break, a little breakfast break. Opportunity to be able to get a little bit of snack and find out the nutritional benefit to that. We've implemented that in. Third and fourth, there's your schedule. 1 lunch, 10:50 to 11:24. 1 big lunch. And we're going to open up the campus a little bit to have multiple areas where you'll be able to go. And we'll talk to you more about that as school begins. 5th and 6th, 1:02. 7th and 8th goes until 2:40. Then on Friday, all of it. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, again, 1 lunch, and you still have that second breakfast. Okay? Again, I'm going to put a lot of this information on Be Online after the video, so if you need to refer back to it, you can. But there's kind of been a rough draft of your block schedule. Eligibility, finding out what we know about our block schedule. Let's talk about eligibility. Eligibility will be, this is weekly eligibility. It is checked prior to the school beginning on Monday or the scheduled first day of the week. So, if we don't have school on Monday, we will pull the report on Tuesday. What I'll do is I'll pull that report. On that report, we'll identify any students that are ineligible. Here's a question some students have asked. Because we have 8 classes now, does that mean we have to be passing 7 of 8? And I said, heck yeah. No, I'm just kidding. It stays the same. It will be 6 of 8 still now, okay? So you have to be passing 6 of 8 classes, or, let me clarify it a little bit better, 3 credits. Notice down here, student aid and seminary, they do not count. So if you've got 5 classes and seminary, you're not eligible. You don't have enough credits, okay? So going through that, students not passing 3 credits will be notified as ineligible. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll pull the report. I'll send the report to the coaches. I'll let them know. I identify on 2 categories. In danger of failing, they are marked in yellow. Those students that are failing, I will mark them in red. I will send that to the coaches. It's their responsibility to make sure that they communicate with all those students, and particularly the ones that are in danger of failing. That following Monday that Monday when we come to school, I pull the report Sunday evening. That Monday I come in, I identify all those students that are in red, and I call them into the office. And I just let them know. Hey kiddo, you're failing these 2 classes. This is the percentage that you have. This is what you got. And you have got until the next day at noon to get that grade or grades updated to passing. You happen to be failing 2, and you can get 1 up, and that happens to be your 6th class, and you have it done by that time, then you're eligible. How do we get verification of that? You have to I receive an email from the teacher verifying that you are passing and what the grade is. If I get an email from Mr. Jasmine that says, yeah, Kevin is now passing, send. I gotta have a percentage. He is now passing with a 72%. Okay, great. Now we're good to go. Okay? Or I need to receive a written note from the teacher. Please note that I'm going to look into those. We've got a pretty good understanding of the signatures of our teachers, and I can identify when a student's kind of trying to pull a fast one. So please make sure you follow through on those. Again, students taking college classes will have to verify their weekly college grade. Same thing with those online students. You're going to have to do the same thing. There's details at noon. Then what I do is I'll update that report, and I'll send that report to the coaches and say, here's your updated eligibility for the week. And I try to do that Tuesday afternoon, if not by Wednesday morning. That allows the coach to have enough time to fully prepare for their week's competition. Okay? So that's the reason for it. That's kind of why we've set it up in a very tight situation. Extenuating circumstances of the teachers include only when makeup work has been handed in prior to eligibility check and the teacher verifies student work. So students, what I'm trying to tell you is don't come with the expectation of, oh, you know what, that's easy work, it's 6 assignments, I'll do it Sunday night, I'll hand it in Monday, they'll get it taken care of. Very, very clear to understand, a lack of effort on your part as a student does not require extra work by our teachers. So they'll just put it in the stack, and they may very well say, I'll get to it when I can get to it. And it may be this stack, and you're at the bottom of the stack, and come Tuesday at 3 o'clock, noon, I mean, sorry, I didn't get to it. It's unfortunate. So be proactive and take care of your work. Student first, athlete second. Practices. We'll go through this pretty quick. Golf, tennis, football. First practice is August 12th. Golf must have 2 practices. First competition, August 14th. Tennis has to have 5. First competition for tennis can be August 17th. Football, you've got a bunch of series that are set up with 9 padded. First competition is August 29th. For cross-country, girls swimming and volleyball, first practice is August 19th. Must have 9 practices. First competition is August 29th. Each day can only count as 1 practice. So you cannot say, well, I'll be gone on Thursday, but I'll make it up and I'll do 2 days on Friday. That counts as the same. Each day counts as a practice, even if you have 2 or 3 days. Fundraising. Always an interesting conversation. What I'm trying to do, and I'll try to go through this pretty quick because I'm trying to save an interest in time. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to minimize some of the confusion that we have with fundraising. If you have an account that references Rock Springs High School or any kind of logo, that is Rock Springs High School account. So parent committee, if you open up an account that you want to support for your program, please make sure that that account doesn't have our name on it. Technically, that's our account, and we need to make sure that we have that money accounted for. The other thing that we oftentimes deal with is that we have multiple programs that try to do the same type of fundraising. We want to try to minimize this. And that's where it tailors into this Tiger Proud fundraising event. About 2.5 years ago, I had a business come to me, and it was in January. We're halfway through the season, and they detailed to us that they had been hit up 54 times from Rock Springs High School alone in athletics and activities. And they bleed orange and black. They love us, but they just didn't know what we can do. And so what we're trying to do is help kind of take care of that a little bit, and we're trying to host what we call a Rock Springs High School Tiger Proud Community Event. It's a fundraising event. It's the 16th and 17th. It's out at the Sweetwater Events Complex, and what we're trying to do is we want to promote all of our activities at once, and let's let our community see who we are. And let's let our community contribute to us one big weekend. And that saves us in a multitude of different ways. But lets our coaches coach. Nothing more fun than being in the middle of your season having to fundraise. I'm sure players love that. So let's let our players be players. Let's host this big weekend. Let's get as much money as we possibly can. And then most importantly, parents, let's let you be parents. I can tell you I'm one of them. Who did the fundraising for our family last year? Right here. I did most of it. I want to be able to enjoy that a little bit. So that's part of that opportunity to understand we want this big event. The other thing is with businesses, we don't do a good job of recognizing our businesses. Some of our programs have done a wonderful job with that, but we need to make sure that it's for more benefit to all. There's nothing better than let's go ahead and let's get something that's going to benefit not only our student athletes, but maybe the student athletes that are coming into the program. For instance, maybe we can make improvements to where we can have a projector in here through that fundraising that can go ahead and benefit not only these type of events, but also our band, our choir, our theater. Do the same thing in the gym, improvements in the scoreboard, maybe improvements in the locker room. Right now, a lot of our fundraising is set up for kind of monetary stuff, where it's used for warm-ups. And then next year, you've got a student athlete that's growing 3 inches and put on 25 pounds. They're not using that anymore. So what I really want to do is I want to try to promote this. Please come to this event. Each of the coaches and activity sponsors are required to go ahead and represent their program at this event. We need people there. It's going to be a lot of fun. We've got, I think, we've got a swim program. It's got a dunk tank. So, and we're requesting all sorts of fun people to be in there. Take advantage, get them wet. We've got some people that are doing like rent an athlete. You got some chores, you need some extra work to get done. Hey, here's a great opportunity. There's a bunch of other things that are going on. We're doing a basketball tournament. We're going to be using that as another motivation. And we've got fire departments coming. They're going to do a car seat safety check. We've got all sorts of donations, a Traeger grill. We're actually raffling off a rifle. There's a bunch of nice things that we've got going on. So please, come out, come to this event, and let's show our Tiger Crowd one big time. Conflict resolution, chain of command. I'm going to kind of go through this quick, but basically what we want to do is we really want to try to get that student to advocate for themselves as much as possible and work through solutions in a very systematic way, as much as we possibly can. First and foremost, we always ask that if it's a circumstance, have the athlete and the coach speak. That's 99% of where things get taken care of. We don't have a communication issue, we have a miscommunication that happens there, and we need that clarity. I didn't know what you meant there, coach, I'm sorry. Or, oh, I understand where you're coming from, kiddo. I see where you're at. We'll work on that. If not, then the next thing is we try to go with the athlete, the coach, and the administrator. Have a conversation with them. We can work through the differences. The athlete can go ahead and communicate what their concerns are. Coach, communicate. I become a mediator. We try to work out those differences. Then we can go with athlete, administrator, parent. If there is ever a parent meeting, my office door is always open. Please, if you have any questions or any concerns, more than welcome to come in and communicate with me. But I am going to ask you, have we gone through step 1? And have we gone through step 2? If we haven't gone through step 2, then maybe what we need to do is go ahead and come to this point, but it will always be with the athlete. There's been a lot of communication that has been brought into my part from a concerned parent that when you bring the student athlete in there, that's when we really start to see the differences. We have to start to identify that what may be seen on the field or the court is not necessarily what the parents necessarily see or what's communicated to the parents. So this is very, very important. And then finally what we'll do is we'll go ahead and have a parent, coach, administrator, never after a sporting event. We know this. Okay, please. That's part of that social media. Pause before you post. Give yourself plenty of time. Always scheduled in advance and involves parties that should use appropriate language, tone, and be professional. We're here to work it out, okay? If you want to come in and vent and complain and those kind of things, that's where we need that grace period. Give your time to self-reflect and talk about it. Most importantly, it's never a conversation about playing time or coaching philosophy. The coach wants to bring up the concern about playing time and have that conversation. That's perfectly fine. But please understand that coaching conversation that's regarding playing time, if it's a conversation, it will be about your son and daughter and your son and daughter only. If it's, well, so-and-so gets to do this, that's not what we're there for. We're here to take care and work with you as much as possible. And then again, philosophy, oftentimes heard that, the person with the chalk last oftentimes wins, especially when it's coaches. But I can tell you there's probably some circumstances where these coaches can go ahead and say, hey, draw it up, put you in that spot. But we're not going to have those conversations, okay? With that, this is kind of a video. I'm going to go through it fairly quick. There's just a couple of points on here. I've spent hours and hours and hours trying to find a video that identifies kind of the concern that oftentimes comes to be the issue with regard to philosophy and playing time, and I haven't found one. So for those of you that have seen it before, We'll see it again.
What we're talking about here is probably one of the most loaded issues in youth sports, the playing time issue. And fair or unfair, it's the coach's prerogative to determine who plays and who gets the playing time. When we move away from rec sports, recreational sports, into competitive sports, it's the coach's prerogative. So probably the first piece of advice I have for parents is check your emotions at the door. It is incredibly evocative for parents to see their kids suffering. And there's no greater suffering in sports than when you have to sit on the bench. So it's very critical that when you're dealing with your child around this issue and anyone else, other parents, that you keep your emotions out of it. It's sort of like when we get emotional, none of us are troubled by deep waves of thought. We say really dumb things. So we need to maintain that kind of professional adult perspective. That's absolutely key. I think the other thing that's important for parents to keep in mind is we want to encourage our children, like it or not, to play the role that the coach assigned them on the team. This is how teams win. This is how you learn to support your teammates. And if your role is a support player, you come off the bench, you might not like it, but it's absolutely critical that you learn to do that role to the best of your ability. And we want parents to support their kids, to encourage their kids to do that. The other key issue, and again it comes from a parent's perspective, having a better perspective, is you want to encourage your children to channel their disappointment and their anger and their frustration and their feelings that this isn't fair into hard work. You want them to take the adversity of not getting playing time and use it to motivate themselves. Use it to work much harder. Use it to maintain a positive attitude. And to not, it's very easy for kids to kind of succumb to the gravitational pull of disappointment and being bitter. And you don't want them to do that. You want to encourage them to channel it constructively.
So again, I think that's a really good summary of some things to kind of think about. And again, it's an opportunity for that student athlete to be able to advocate for themselves and just to be reflective. And I get it. There's nobody that loves your own child or daughter more than you. And hopefully this is kind of puts things in perspective. Kind of go through some of these quick. Sportsmanship, obviously there's an expectation. And the important thing here is the Wyoming High School Activity Association has identified RIDE, which is respect, integrity, dedication, encouragement. And most importantly, it involves all of us. Administrators, coaches, officials, our spectators, and our participants, and our players. The yellow card, the way we do it here at Rock Springs High School is if there's a behavior that's not appropriate, you start calling out a particular official, or you start complaining about a particular call, or start yelling at the coach. It's just going to be very, very quick. It's just going to be a very short conversation. You'll be issued a yellow card. It'll be very short. Sir, ma'am, your behavior at this event is unacceptable. I'm going to ask you to please stop. If it doesn't, then we'll have you removed from the game, from the actual event. Okay? Our communication, we use Rock Springs High School Facebook Authentic, and then also our Twitter. I'm much more used with this. I don't think anybody else is really using it much, but that's going to be part of our communication. The other thing is we have one new one that we use quite a bit, oraconference.org. This is our scheduling. This is where everything is put up and put on for review of schedules. You can identify and look at others. You click on Rock Springs, you can get a listing. You can go into view schedules. You can click on your sports. You can go ahead and download it. Bam, there's the entire schedule for that particular event. It's a great site. It also does have a app, and there's what the app looks like. You can get on the app. It's a great thing to be able to look at. The new thing that we have here, Parent Square. In the past, how many of you have had Schoolway? Raise your hand. How many of you know Schoolway no longer exists? Raise your hand. Okay, good. This is our substitute, Parent Square. And what Schoolway couldn't offer us, Parent Square is offering us times 10. This is a great website. We are just starting to play with this. If you'll notice on our school account, we can actually download a lot of the attachments, and then at the end it has a consent form. Parent Square does the same thing. Also, Parent Square communicates. You can set up multiple groups. This is our form of communication. I want to make sure that we understand this is going to be what we rely on as a district. Coaches have team apps. They have other forms of communication through Facebook. This is their sole source right here. They want to have those others, that's fine, but this needs to be their first form of communication. And this is what you'll receive. So please, right there's the app. That's what it looks like. Parent Square, please get that on your phone. Accept. You'll send invitations. And again, we're working through that. I'm very, very excited about this. The opportunities that this has is immense. Tigertown Bass, September 5th, 4 to 6. Please come downtown, right on North Front Street. This is an opportunity where all of our fall sports come together. It's also where we work on a Hall of Fame inductees. We go there. We have all of our sports come in. They get recognized. They talk about what their upcoming events are, positives, pluses, what they have, and then they do a big cheer. And then we just really bring our community together. So please show up for that. So, to wrap it up, it's a collective effort as parents, teachers, coaches, administrators to serve and keep this philosophy in mind. Again, we greatly appreciate all of the support that you give and continue to give. Provide a quality education for all for our students, and athletics and activities is a great extension of that. There is your assignments. Okay? Band in the band's room, if you want, you can go ahead and break into these areas. Don't forget to sign up in those locations.